please.
Okay, this is the October 9th meeting of the Palm Springs Planning Commission. Reporting and posting of the agenda, please, Alex.
The agenda was posted on October 4 in accordance with state and local procedures.
Thank you. Should we do the motions completely over again?
Yes, please.
Okay. We have approval of the minutes for September 11th and September 25th. Could we move those?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move approval of both sets of minutes, September 11th and September 25th.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Matthews, second by Mr. Schoenberger. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimous. Okay, this would be the time for public comments. If you have any comments to make on any item that we're hearing today or anything else that is taking place in the city of Palm Springs, please step forward and make your comments now. Seeing none, we'll close the public comments. Oh, okay. We'll keep that open.
My name is Michael Kaiser. I reside at 3070 Goldenrod Lane in Palm Springs, and I'm addressing the proposed development by Palm Canyon LLC, which is, I believe, just south of Canyon South Golf Course. It's my understanding that the current plan calls for a mixed golf.
If I can interrupt you just for a second, would you like to reserve your comments for when we hear that item?
Sure, I didn't understand, sure, I'd be happy to reserve that.
That'd be preferred. Thank you. Okay, we'll close the public comments, and we'll move on to architectural approval item number 6.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would like to take a moment to diverge from the agenda just briefly. I would like to introduce our new principal planner, Larry Menez. Larry is joining us from the city of Highland and has a significant amount of experience in the planning profession. He's also going to be working on advanced planning and assisting the city in our comprehensive general plan update and comprehensive zoning ordinance amendment. So I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome Larry to the planning staff.
Welcome aboard, Larry. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Okay, architectural approval item number 6, sign program, application by Anderson Signs for a sign program for the Covington Place Business Center located at 3465 La Campagna Way, M1P Zone, Section 7, and this is continued from the meeting of September 25th. Staff, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is an application by the Anderson Sign Company to establish a sign program for a recently constructed multiple-unit center located at 3465 La Campagna Way, which is zoned M1P, the Planned Research and Development Zone. There are graphics and the mapping on the display board to my left. As proposed, the plan would designate a 4x3 foot painted metal monument sign for the center ID and designate a 3x3 foot area on the glass next to the entrance of each unit for a computer-generated high-performance vinyl signage. Upon staff's review, it was recommended that the center identification sign be redesigned to complement the architecture and colors of the building, including materials and dimensions to reflect the mass of the building. The property owner has stated that if the city does not approve of the proposed design, then he would like it removed from the program at this time. So, staff recommends approval of the proposed sign program with the elimination of the center ID sign. This completes staff's presentation. Staff and a sign company representative are in the audience and available for the commission's questions.
Thank you. Back to Planning Commission for discussion.
One question, what did design review say again?
The proposed sign was a painted metal monument sign, and they requested that the company or the business property owner redesign it more in liking with the building, mass, materials, etc. And at this time, he stated if this was not acceptable, he would remove that from the program.
Scott,
Mr. Schoenberger.
Mr. Chairman, Sky, do you understand that the applicant then will not have a sign at all, or that the applicant will come back with the monument, with a new monument sign, or I'm not sure exactly what the intention of the applicant is with this request.
The applicant requests that maybe they might amend the sign program at a later date when they feel it cost-wise it's worthy
So
to establish that sign.
at this point, the applicant just is fearful of the expense of the monument sign, wants us to approve the balance of the sign program, and then allowing him to come back at a later time, if he chooses, with an addition to the sign program, which would include the monument sign.
Yeah, to amend it at a later date. It is a new structure, and they do want to get signage up for their new tenants.
Sky, I sat in on the design review of this on Monday. What is the specific location in the city of this, and are there any other signs that are comparable to what they're proposing? To share with the other members, the design review wanted to make this a massive statement with stone columns and do some other things, which, as I said, there seem pretty grandiose ideas for what the structure is. But maybe to share, where is this in relationship to town, and are there any other simpler signs like they're proposing?
I must admit, I haven't been out there and physically checked the other signage and the existing signage in that area. It is located on the far east end of town, southwest of Vista Chino Road and Gene Autry. It's a very industrial area, a lot of M1P zoning in that neighborhood. I think
Want me to let you know where it is?
If you hold,
It's opposite of the FedEx complex on the exact opposite side, and it's all the way back in the farthest corner of those complexes against the airport.
thank you.
I think the DRC was really concerned that the painted metal was a very simplistic, lightweight, smaller sign for that overall center, and was hoping for something more along the same materials, I believe concrete, maybe bulkier, thicker. It's a very narrow sign, as you can see by the
Could, I guess,
proposal.
asking the applicant, could the applicant work with staff to come up with a compromise that meets both needs? I understand, too, there's a reason for the name of the sign, and it's the applicant's daughter. They want to name
If the applicant would
Well-
like to comment, why don't you come up
Well,
and sign the
Commissioner,
proposal?
I might like to interject that at one point the committee did even inquire, could they put some sort of rock base or something to help bulk up the sign? And at that time, the property owner said that this is a sign that they're proposing. They've already built it, actually, and that's what they want, or they'll just hold off. But I'll let the sign company speak for him.
Actually, the contractor was the one who actually built the sign. The customer came to us after the completion of the building. This sign monument was built out of steel at the time, using the same materials and the same coloring of the building. But we are incorporating the actual lettering on it, which is where our involvement actually comes in on it. But basically, it's already built, it's already done, it's sitting in the back of his warehouse, and he just wants to put it in the ground to name the business center after it's the owner, after his youngest daughter.
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Oh, I'm
and
sorry,
address?
Julie from Anderson Sign Company.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm mildly confused. Is this here because it changes, it's not in compliance with the sign ordinance? And why is it not in compliance?
It's a sign program, Commissioner, so the code requires any multiple business property or building to have a sign program, and this is what they're proposing for their sign program was the vinyl lettering on the windows of each unit and a center identification sign, which is by code also requires a sign program.
So in our ordinance, the vinyl lettering on the windows is not acceptable, is that correct, or it is?
It's not stated specifically in the sign ordinance, but because of recently approved programs that are allowing this vinyl lettering on the windows, as staff was concerned, it is following up with new businesses coming in and making the same proposal outside of the downtown area to use lettering on the windows.
The Well, this isn't in the downtown business, I mean, this isn't a warehouse district behind the airport. I mean, if we're being polite about it. But, so you, and the recommendation from the staff, as I read it, is you're approving the sign program, but not the identification sign.
That's
So-
correct.
so
To,
the vi-
to remove the identification sign as currently proposed from the program, not from the concept of having a center ID. It would be great to have that recognition for that particular complex, but the design overall, the committee could not recommend it.
Okay, and I'm being very simple here because I want to understand it. So the vinyl on the windows, lettering on the windows, everybody was comfortable with at design review?
That's correct, Commissioner.
What wasn't an issue, but it's the sign, the monument sign for the property that seems to be a concern.
That's correct.
And, you know, my thoughts, and then I'll let the rest of you go, is, you know, this isn't on a major thoroughfare next to, you know, this is about as far out of the way as you can get in a warehouse, in a very nice warehouse district in Palm Springs. And so I'm ready to get this done with, but
Ms. Conrad?
I would just be inclined to also not micromanage this and refer it back to staff and think that there might be some compromise that could be made over bulking up the sign at the base, or something that would be very simple and not very costly, so that we wouldn't have to deal with this. I think I'm of the mind of Commissioner Grants that something could happen on the staff level that would be a decent compromise, and that's where I would sit on it.
Is that a motion?
But Commissioner, if I might interject, that the property owner is anxious to have signs approved and installed and wasn't really looking for a delay. That's why we went ahead and brought it forward for them.
Yeah, well, I'm not thinking that that's much of a delay. So with that, I'll make the motion that we approve the sign program with a monument sign to be agreed upon by the applicant and staff, because I think there needs to be a monument sign for the building. It's inconvenient otherwise. And that's my motion.
Yeah, I'll second that. Going along with that I think there could be some simple things along the base, just as Ms. Conrad said, to maybe beef it up, that should be insignificant, using some material off of the building. I think design review had talked about using some of the stone or the brickwork. That shouldn't cost almost nothing. Use the existing sign.
We've tried to mention that to the customer, and the customer at this time, or the building owner has told the customer that the building, they're in debt about $200,000 over where they thought that they would be at the completion of this building, and do not have the resources at this time, even for some simple improvements to that monument.
well, as I understand the motion, you can put the signs in the windows for each of the businesses, and if you choose not to put the monument sign up,
Right.
that's a business
That's
decision.
what we're asking, sir.
Yeah, so you get to put, as I understand the motion today, those signs in the windows can go up if approved, but the monument sign, if you choose for economic reasons not to do it, don't. If you want to approve it, you're going to have to work it out with the staff.
Right.
Something.
That's fine, we're
acceptable.
willing
Right.
to do that. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Conrad, second by Mr. Grants. We don't need a roll call vote on this, right? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 7, case 5.0860, PDD 266, TTM 30453, application by Havenstone for a final plan development district 266 for landscape and wall plans for property located at the northeast corner of Indian Canyon Drive and Alejo Road, R3 Zone, Section 11. Staff report, please.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll have to abstain on this item.
Thank you, Ms. Morantz.
Only one.
You'll recall at an earlier recent meeting, you approved a final plan development district in terms of the architecture, and these were the last two items remaining on the Heavenstone collection. These items were reviewed by the Design Review Committee on October 7th and approved as submitted. Fairly interesting landscape palette, decorative wall program that provides some relief to the streetscape. I'll approach the boards and kind of walk you through it.
Thank you, Alex.
For orientation purposes, this is one of the projects in the North Indian Corridor. We have Indian Avenue here and Alejo Road here. This is the northeast corner of that intersection. The decorative wall program features decorative pilasters, stone cap along the top of the wall, cap on the columns, and then a design that kind of moves in around the tree planting areas. Steps back here, and as well as here, providing for the signature palm trees along Indian Avenue, and then I believe Tipuana Tipus in this area. The reason this was not available at the last meeting, we still had a little work to do in terms of the final desired wall design, and we believe that this meets the intent of the original conditions of approval, and we appreciate you allowing us to wait a couple of weeks to get this right. We'll answer any questions you may have at this point. The applicant is also available and able to answer any questions.
Thank you, Alex. Back to commission. Discussion, motions.
Move approval as of case 5.0860 PDD 266 for Heavenstone Plan Development District, final landscape plan.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Conrad, second by Mr. Grentz. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Oh, I'm sorry, and one abstention. It's not quite 2 o'clock yet. Why don't we skip on? Did you want to take a short recess, Alex, or just go ahead and continue on?
We should probably take a recess until 2, and we'll go into the hearing items at that time.
That'd be fine. We'll take a 5-minute recess. Okay, the October 9th meeting of the Planning Commission is back in session. We've already covered public comments. Okay, we're going to go to the public hearing items. It is a few minutes after 2. We have item TTM 29886, application by John Sanborn for Preserve Golf Company LLC for a tentative tract map to subdivide 18.23 acres of land into 17 single-family residential lots ranging in size from .34 to 5.18 acres in area, 1 conservation lot and 1 letter lot for development as a private street for future development as a single-family residence located at the southwest corner of Via Monte and Crescent Drive, R1B Zone Section 0-20. Staff report, please.
Thank you. The map before you this afternoon is an area designated as R1B Zone and L2 General Plan, which is a low-density general plan designation of approximately 2 dwelling units per acre. The application is for the subdivision of 18-acre parcel into 17 acres, lot sizes ranging from 14,800 to 32,000 square feet, with 2 larger lots at 4.8 acres and 5.18 acres. The proposed project would create a gated community, gated street with 17 single-family residences, and no architecture is proposed at this time. The applicant has proposed a building limit line which would limit development of hillside area on 7 hillside lots. In working with the applicant, the design has evolved to the creation of a conservation easement for a portion of the hillside area. The applicant of the proposed project is the same applicant as you may recall on the Mountain Falls project, and the applicant has also submitted a letter to the city formally withdrawing the earlier application for the Mountain Falls Golf project. There's a number of lots, 3 of the lots which we're asking for an AMM to allow some substandardness to be addressed through the Administrative Minor Modification Program, and that would be one of the conditions of approval. The environmental assessment took a look at this site, and there were a number of potential impact areas, including land use, zoning, geologic issues, water, air quality, transportation, biological resources, hazards, public services, and cultural resources. Mitigation measures were prepared and are attached to your initial study and mitigation monitoring program, which reduce or eliminate the severity of the impacts so that the project will have a less than significant impact on the environment. The city has received 2 responses regarding this study. Correspondence from the Palm Springs Unified School District indicates that school fees must be paid as future residences are developed on the site. Correspondence from the California Department of Fish and Game requests that standard bighorn sheep exclusion fence be installed on the southern perimeter boundary at a height of 8 feet in order to be effective. A 6-foot fence was originally recommended. We've revised the mitigation measures to require that should the wildland interface issue become a problem, that the proposed 6-foot fence could be raised an additional 2 feet through the addition of iron for a total of 8 feet in height. I'd like to do is approach the map, kind of give you the background in terms of area and lots, allocation, layout, and design, and then answer any questions you may have. The applicant is present and has a number of questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Back to Commissioner for any questions. Oh, okay.
If I may, the site is located right here. As you can see, there's an existing residence in this area and a 3-hole golf course. This is the intersection of Crescent Drive and Via Monte Vista, existing residential neighborhood here and here, homes in this area on the top of the hillside, and the Tachiva Dam structure running in this way. Spillways right here, existing residences right here. A total of 18 lots would be created. this string of lots 1 through 9, kind of paralleling the existing residential lots on Crescent Drive. Just south of that would be the intersection that would create the private entryway. This is outside of the gate, a little turnaround here, and the gate would be right here, and a street, what we refer to as lettered lot here. An easement would provide access to lots 17 and 16 right here, and this would be a flag-shaped lot on lot 9. Lot number 1 is substandard, 15,000 square feet is required. It's 14,810 square feet. The zoning ordinance makes a provision for lots less than 10% substandard to be approved through the AMM process. In addition, lot 17 is somewhat standard in width. It's 111 feet in width, and lot 15 is 112 feet in width. Both are also acceptable using the AMM provisions. Lot 15 is 1% substandard in width. Lot 17 is, lot 15 is 7.1% substandard in width. Lot 15 is 7.1 substandard in width. Lot 17 is 7.5% substandard. That's detailed in the report, and so they do meet the criteria for the administrative minor modification for lot creation. In terms of some of the interesting aspects of this facility, there is an existing residence, pool, guest building, and tennis court here, and there has in the past been a golf course, 3-hole golf course created in this area. Existing residents, also known as the Kohler Estate, would remain. They have, on the adjacent hillside throughout the entire subdivision, created what's referred to as a building limit line. And this essentially would be the place at which no future structures could be erected. And the objective here is to keep structures off the hillside, so they couldn't put pools or fountains, any sort of cabanas or other additional structures. It keeps our hillsides pristine. In terms of lot number 18, this is a conservation easement lot, which would be created here so that this could be dedicated to the city or other entity as desired by the applicant, and it would be essentially a preservation lot. Nothing would ever be built here. The similar portion uphill or upslope of the building limit line here was not, the applicant did not want to dedicate that on lot 10. They felt that that area was important to maintain privacy and those issues on lot 10, also to increase the saleability or marketability for future sales of lot 10 as an estate-sized lot. This measures approximately 5.18 acres, a building area or a buildable area of about 1.65 acres in here. The conservation easement is 4.8 acres or roughly 213,000 square feet. Minor street improvements are required as a condition of approval through the engineering department, as are sidewalks on this street. This concludes staff's presentation. We'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant and representatives are available also to answer your questions.
Thank you. Alex, back to commission for any questions.
One question. Can you show me on the big map exactly where the Kohler house is?
It'd be my pleasure.
Okay.
Kohler Estate is right in this area.
Ms. Schoenberg.
Alex, can you point out on the big map where the spillway is?
Yes. It's just right in this area. This is the dam structure, and the spillway is a slice through the dam right here.
That's what I thought when I was looking at that. What happens to the homes in this area if the spillway is needed?
Oh.
It may be a stupid question, but it looks to me like they're sitting there right at the base of the spillway.
Excellent question.
And would make me a little nervous to live there.
Well, there is a existing underground storm line that runs the entire way from the spillway here all the way through the street. It's actually underneath the proposed street. So that issue has been dealt with. It's an existing storm drain.
Any other questions? Ms. Conrad?
Let me just ask about number 26, I think is a leftover from the previous conditions of approval, because it says all landscape, golf course improvements, construction debris on site, so.
Actually, that's not a previous condition. There is a golf course and green and tee boxes and those types of improvements in this area, in this area, and this area. And those will have to be removed as grading occurs
Oh,
for
the
the
golf course
site.
improvements
So
will have
the
to come
tee
out, okay.
boxes, the greens, all of those types of existing improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. This is an item for public hearing, and this is the time for public comments. If you wish to make a comment on this item, then please come forward, state your name and address, and put it on the clipboard.
That storm drain is big.
That's a big spillway.
Well, and that's, and if you get a flood down there, the water's gonna come down that.
Okay. I'd,
It's gonna come down there with tremendous force.
Mr. Sanborn.
Mr. Caffrey, John Sanborn, Sanborn A&E, representing the developer. I do have a list of concerns regarding these 114 some odd conditions, which seems quite a lot for a 14-lot subdivision. If you'd like, I'd like to start.
Be my guest.
Item 9. The last line, plan indicates pads at finished floor elevation. We'd like to insert at or below those of the adjacent residence to the north.
Which condition is that, Mr. Sanborn?
9.
Number 9, just insert between elevations and below, at or below.
Floor elevations at or below. Is that, okay.
That's correct. We don't want them any higher, but we'd like to, in some cases, I think, to allow us some flexibility. All right, we move on to number 18. The applicant shall construct a decorative masonry wall along the entire north property line prior to the final map. I don't think you can legally require that. That's not a subdivision ordinance item. And we have no problem in constructing the wall along the property line, but we don't want to put it in if the project does not proceed as so designed.
If what,
The other
Mr. Sa-
issue,
I didn't-
pardon me?
I didn't hear you, Mr. Sanborn. Would you speak a little more slowly?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just missed the last points you were making.
Okay. Number 1, I don't think the MAP Act will allow that to happen. Number 2, we don't feel that we want to put the wall in at this time prior to the recording of the map. Part of the problem is, as you know, that a lot of times financing is predicated on the recordation of the map, and the construction of any site improvements would be a financing item. Item 19, mass grading for lots 11 through 17. We would like to be able to come back in and do a mass grading plan for the project down the road, and that includes lots 11 through 17. If someone wants to come in after that's been graded and they buy the lot and want to modify it, they'd have to come back through the Planning Commission to do that. Item 26.
Mr. Sanborn, I hate to interrupt you again, but
Yeah.
your problem with condition 19 specifically is what? You want it removed or you want it changed?
I want it deleted. We'd like to be able to do that. Sorry. Item 26 is somewhat not consistent with item 19. If we delete item 19, then we'll take care of item 26. Item 48, question why we need an archaeological monitor when that site's already been graded and a golf course developed on it. It doesn't seem to make much sense. We'd like that deleted.
Which one is that?
Item 48. For an archaeological monitor, doesn't make much sense. Then we'll move on to item 57, construction of sidewalks on Via Monte Vista. There's only about 30 feet of Monte Vista that front this property after we build the driveway. It doesn't make much sense to put a sidewalk in. There are no sidewalks in that entire neighborhood. We'd rather see that developed into landscaping, so we'd like to delete that item. Item 61, the private street shall be 47 foot in width, and with 5-foot sidewalks on both sides. We're requesting the sidewalks be deleted. Again, this is a privately gated community. We would like the 37-foot width as we have shown on the tentative map. That's item 61, yeah. And item 63, again, we'd like to request the deletion of the sidewalks. It's a gated community, very limited number of lots. I have a question on 77. That's the bond for mitigation measure, and that's only for area to be graded. Is that correct? Because we have a large portion of the hillside we're not touching, so I assume that's for the areas only to be graded. Is that correct, Doug? Thank you.
Mr. Sanborn?
Yes,
As this public hearing still opens, and we're going to be on this for a while, so maybe if there are no other comments, we can close the public hearing. I didn't see anybody else coming forward.
yeah, I still have a couple more comments. Yeah, well, we only 114 of them, you know.
No, Mr. Chairman, we need to keep the hearing open for Mr.
Well, I
Sanborn.
mean, close for public comments. Or we leave it open?
You have to leave it open
Okay.
until after you get all the testimony.
Okay.
Item 82, and really it's a question for Mr. Brackian. I believe that portion of line 14 in front of the project's been constructed, that there is a catch basin at the north end of our property line. And in fact, the Tachiva drainage storm drain runs right down through our project, which is what takes care of our project. And so I don't think that we are applicable to the line 14 requirement. I'd like to see that deleted.
Sorry, which number was that, Mr. Sanborn?
That is item 82. And I think that's about the end of my list. Do you have anything in addition, Fred? Oh. What item was that? Yeah, Doug, there's a general statement about the removal of non-native material landscaping. They'd like to be able to keep some of the more mature trees in there. Is that something that can be worked out with staff?
Do you recall which condition it is?
Not a condition, I don't believe.
It may be in a mitigation measure.
Yeah. It is the mitigation measure area. Is that something that can be worked out with staff? Because there's some of those mature trees we'd like to be able to save.
Can you find that? Yeah, we'll address that with the commission.
Okay? That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Sanborn.
I'd be happy to
Oh.
answer any questions.
Is there anybody else who would like to make comment on this issue?
Staff report.
Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and back to the commission.
Item number 81. You had mentioned something about item 81. Does that need to be deleted? Did you ask?
I believe it should be deleted because that,
It's already happened. I mean,
yeah.
the storm drain
all
pipe's
intents and
already there.
purposes. The big catch basin just in the north end of our property.
I think it's 82.
82.
Chairman, I have
But
a
yeah,
question.
that's with reference to item 82.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Your concern, you expressed a concern with regard to item 82.
82, that's correct.
Okay.
So is it 81 and 82?
Yeah, mitigation.
Just 82?
Well, 81, we have the stormwater facilities already on site, so it's, 6 of one and half dozen the other.
Okay, it's just there.
Yep. We have to accept it anyway by law.
Mr. Chairman, I have a
Ms.
question for
Ms.
Mr.
Conrad?
Sanborn. I see that you skip over conditions like number 62 that require you to construct the curb and gutter. And I'd like to know how you and the applicant feel about having curb and gutter in this neighborhood, if you're going for more of the old Las Palmas look or the Vista Las Palmas look. And since you want to delete the sidewalks, would you prefer swales, or
Well,
can you comment on that?
we do have some drainage issues, and the curbs do help us channelize storm flows, because we are going to have to put in some catch basins going down through there. Now, it does not have to be a straight-face curb and gutter. We could go to a wedge curb or something a little less formal. We'd like the opportunity to do that, and I know we have done that in the past, working with the engineering department. We can still get the same capacity, but it's not quite, you don't get that vertical feel. We come in with a wedge curb, and that works just as well.
And would you have a preference for that?
It doesn't make any difference to me, one way or the
How
other.
about the applicant? I mean, what's the look that you're going to go for?
We like the option, the one way or the other, depending upon what our needs are.
Mr. Matthews?
Questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I just have a question to Mr. Sanborn. I'm sure you've calced all this and whatever, but if you kind of respond to Mr. Schoenberger's question about, and this is a pretty big spillway here, and I suppose you got to put a fairly large pipe in there, and
That, the flood control tells me that the spillway is only applicable when we get the 500-year storm. And if we get the 500-year storm, we got a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And this will be a real minor one compared to the rest of the valley.
Right.
But the 100-year storm is contained behind the dam and through the storm drain system that's currently there.
And the other question I have, and we can either wait out, defer, but I'd have the staff react to the changes that were suggested, and if they objected to any.
Okay, Mr. Sanborn, a question.
Sure.
Lots 11 through 17, at least as I look at the map, and I'm a little bit familiar with the site, are the existing golf course, correct?
Actually, the golf course kind of wanders around.
It wanders around, but
The
a
whole
lot of it
project.
is
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I guess I'm a little confused because I'm looking at, you can't do mass grading under one condition, but you're required to remove all of the golf
That's-
course
That's what I'm
and
saying.
that material on
They're not
another condition.
They're not
Okay.
consistent. That's why we'd like to be able to come in and do a mass grading, clean the site up once and for all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
But, Mr. Sanborn, just so, I'm sorry, just so we understand the connection between those two, if item 19, condition 19 is deleted, then that takes care of number 26.
That's correct.
Okay.
We'll come back through with a
All right.
mass grading plan.
Ms. Conrad?
I guess I have a question of staff. What does the Las Palmas neighborhood think of this, since no one showed up to talk today?
The project proponent hosted a neighborhood meeting. It was fairly well attended, very well noticed, networked in the neighborhood, as well as everybody within 400 feet was invited. Staff attended that meeting. The developer attended, the developer's engineer. Most of the questions, I think, were answered, and I think most people are very comfortable with a single-family subdivision here, would be my interpretation of the turnout today. We've not received any letters, and we sent out the notices pretty much to the same people that showed up. My recollection is we probably had 20, 25 people at that little workshop, and we sat around a table and went through the project.
The reason for no mass grading was to protect the neighborhood from that, or what was the rationale behind no mass grading?
What we've traditionally done in hillside lots is not allow developers to come in and mass grade and subdivide hillside properties. The idea there is to let each individual homeowner come in and take a look at their lot, and hopefully they look at it creatively and come up with a creative design. So it's been a long-term policy. This property's a little bit different in that most of that area has been disturbed with portions of the golf course. And we did ask that they remove some of the non-native vegetation and things of that nature and clean up some of the golf course improvements. I think there's a difference between cleanup and grading. If the commission's pleasure is to allow them to come in, since it's predominantly a disturbed area, and do some pad creation within the area that was previously disturbed, I don't think staff is adverse to that. It, will result in a little bit more grading going on. My suggestion is you not delete that condition in its entirety, that you basically say that a preliminary grading plan be submitted back to the Planning Commission for review and approval as a final up detail, so that we don't have something that's something that you wouldn't have approved that staff takes a look at. Oftentimes, projects of this nature will have a preliminary grading plan before you today, so that could be a follow-up detail. We'd be comfortable with that.
Doug, maybe you could comment on the rest of Mr. Sanborn's issues. Started with number 9.
Yeah, well, the first one is we had 200 comments or recommendations, and we whittled it down. And we felt very uncomfortable whittling it down as much as we did. Actually, what we do try to do with our conditions, just to make a comment, is a lot of them we don't really legally need to give a developer. The first condition basically covers almost everything, and that is you have to build it per city codes and standards. If we wanted to be business unfriendly, we'd give people one condition of approval, let them figure it out, and then we'd fix everything in plan check. And what we've tried to do with our conditions to a large degree is give people the things that come up repeatedly in project final design, plan check, things of that nature. And a lot of it is redundant with our codes, but we've just found if we don't do it in writing, somebody says, well, where did that come from? And we say, well, it's in the zoning ordinance. And they said, but you didn't tell me. Well, we do try to tell everybody as much as we can, and that's why on most of your projects you have a lot of conditions of approval. Item 8 has to do with the pad elevations, item 9, the pad elevations. What I'd like Alex to do is just hit a couple of the grade differences between the properties as it exists and the properties to the north. We felt in looking at that, so that we wouldn't end up with additional pads or materials brought in, that because of the natural topography, we're probably in pretty good shape being below. But
Thank you, Doug. Starting at lot 34 of the Mountain View Estates, again, this is the existing street, the homes on the south side of Crescent. Spot elevation of 542 here. Lot 9, the proposed lot 9 is 541. So existing, it's below. Here, lot 35, it's 537. Here, it's 536. Moving down here, 532, 530. 524, 521, 523, 520, 521. And this lot is all over the place because it's a green, but it's 519 here, 523 here, 524, 523. This is the green and some of the bunkers around the green. But the predominant pattern is, as you're moving in this direction, these lots are lower than the existing lots to the north. So we were concerned that we didn't want to create a relationship through the importation where these would be at or above these lots. They're clearly the...
Wouldn't we then be more than comfortable with the language at or below that he's suggesting? And I'm not sure, but I think all Mr. Sanborn's concerned about is if it says that means every pad's got to be exactly the same. So what he wants it to say is that they'll be at or below, and our only concern is above. So aren't we okay with his suggested wording, or is there some hook there I'm missing?
well, if you've got a 3-foot pad difference between an existing pad and the existing natural grade, we didn't see a need to bring it up 3 feet. The other issue that we were trying to address, we've got an older neighborhood, older houses. I don't know what all their pad elevations are relative to the street, but in many cases, the pads weren't built up as high historically. And when those houses were built, there was a 15-foot 6 height limit for the most part. And, so you're going to end up with a lower house, and the current height limit is 18 feet. And what we find is because of pads and building height, you end up with a situation where the structures are, while they might meet code at 18 feet, they fit a little bit differently. If the commission's pleasure is to say at or below, and you just understand that when we look at the revised grading plan, Alex and I are going to try to push those pads down. And traditionally, the engineering design is to push them up. And when you see if you change the other condition we're going to get to in a minute, if you change that condition, you're going to see the final grading plan, and you might be discussing at or below a second time around. I'm comfortable with working on that during the final one, design, but I'm going to just be upfront with everybody. We're going to try to get them below where it makes sense. The next item has to do with number 18, and we will change that as should read, delete prior to recording of the map as part of the subdivision improvement plans, so that it's built with the subdivision. That is a good catch on the part of the applicant. Thank you. Item 19 is mitigation measure. I've already described that. If the commission would like, we would just suggest that you put in that a grading plan be reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission. We would suggest you leave the contour terrace grading in, and that split level pads, lots also be a goal. Otherwise, you might end up with somebody, a proposal where somebody comes in, wants to do a lot of cut fill and make a nice flatland lot up on the hillside area. And the idea that we try to get is to try to play with the topography and get creative architecture that way. But we could certainly live with bringing a grading plan back to the commission.
Doug, on that, real quick, the intent, for the most part, is it not that we don't see the side of the mountain chewed up on a massive grading of a map?
Chewed up, and that we don't go in and artificially pad out an area that really should be a hillside type design as opposed to one.
And in this case, we're really looking at a project you can't even see from the street for the most part, or really from anywhere else other than the backyards of the adjoining property.
That is correct.
Right. Okay, thank you.
The next item, number 26, is one that, depending on what you do with the preceding one I talked to, you can either delete it or, our concern there, just so you understand it, is that because they weren't proposing a grading plan at this time, we didn't want them to feel that they could just sell the lots the way they are today, and somebody buys a lot with a lake on it, one buys a lot with an elevated T, because our experience is they'll say that's the natural pad, and that elevated T is where we want to build the house, and use that as a pad elevation. So we wanted to get those improvements taken out. Item 48 is
Doug,
one that...
Doug, just so I'm clear on that, if we change 19, if we take the first sentence of 19 out and replace it with a preliminary grading plan shall be reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission, if we insert that as the first line of 19, then you're okay with taking 26 out?
I think 26, you want to talk about getting all those improvements that are on site excavated, removed, and replaced with compacted fill. We don't want, a situation where some of those old improvements are left or buried. So I think it's good grading practices, and we don't think that this development team would do that, but properties can get sold, and we don't want somebody to think that they can keep that lake out there and try to sell it the way it is. .38. I think this might be the one that the applicant referred to with regards to the plant materials. There's two issues that we're addressing. Number 38 has to do with making sure that outside the fenced areas, we don't have any plant materials that are non-native to the immediate area. We don't want to have things outside of the fence that are attractants to some of the wildlife, and we also clearly don't want anything that could be potentially toxic. So the idea is once you get outside of the build area, that you get back to pretty much native material. I think they may have been referencing something in either the environmental assessment or the staff report having to do with removing some of the trees on site to build walls and things of that nature. And if they're bringing back a grading plan for commission review, we can take a look at what trees are left when they actually take a look at that. And they might find that some can be kept and some can't. I haven't found a condition that requires removal of all those trees other than 38. And if we find it during the hearing, let us know. And if we don't find it during the hearing, but we find it tomorrow, we'll call it to the attention of the council in our report. Item 48, having an archaeological monitor on site. You can plant grass real thin, and you could have an archaeological site 2 inches below it. And when you come back in and regrade that property, particularly up near the hillside, there may be unknown archaeological resources that you could not go out and physically survey today. But the minute the dozer's there, you could unearth something. That was one of the mitigation measures in the EIR for the golf course. And most recently, it's one that the tribal council through their staff has asked us to impose. Pretty standard anytime you're near the hillside. To have that, we really don't want to get into a situation that some resources are destroyed by accident. The engineering conditions, I'll take a break and ask the city engineer to address those.
Thank you. 57 relates to sidewalk on Via Monte Vista. Again, that's a city street. General plan calls for sidewalk on public streets. Mr. Sanborn's correct, there aren't any in that area, although there is curb and gutter on Via Monte Vista. And we've been there before with regard to places pedestrians walk.
Yes, Doug.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the commission could defer that by covenant and still be consistent with the general plan.
Thank you, Doug.
Condition 61 has to do with the private street. Again, staff prefers to have, or feels it is preferable to have pedestrians walk on pathways rather than in the street. But if commission feels that the private street doesn't need to have a pedestrian pathway, then 37 feet would be appropriate in lieu of 47 feet. Condition 62, engineering doesn't have any objection to the wedge curb on the private street as long as it carries the water. Again, I think as Mr. Sanborn mentioned, the spillway, the dam and the storm drain system is designed to accommodate the design storm flows. In the event it's plugged or there is an overflow, the water is going to come down and flow down the street. And I think staff, commission should seriously consider that street could carry water and would need to have a gutter of some kind in lieu of dirt shoulders, which would tend to erode. Condition 63 we just spoke of. Condition 65, Mr. Sanborn didn't mention, but that should read C condition 83 in lieu of C condition 30, as these were renumbered. Condition 77 is it's only on the area to be graded, which I believe was Mr. Sanborn's question. And condition 82 was placed there because line 14, as a master plan storm drain line in the adopted storm drain system of the city, does go in Via Monte Vista north of the site. What we were trying to do was allow the option, and of course the developer does not have to do this and can pay the $9,212 an acre, but staff saw a benefit for the extension of that line to the north. And so in lieu of paying the fee, staff would be would be happy if the equivalent costs of extending the storm drain line north were considered. But the option, the way the condition is worded, that there's an option in either way. It is true that the storm drain does go to the north boundary of the tract currently.
Well, just so I understand, then you want 82 left in?
Yeah, the way it's worded, it does give the option, and as I said, I see a benefit of extension of that line 14. Paying the money by the time the flood control district gets to it would be, way off in the way off future. And if there's a possibility of getting it done now, and drying up some of Via Monte Vista, I'd be all for that. We're talking about an equivalent cost.
Can that item be handled as a covenant as well?
Well, it needn't be. The way it's worded is that it's developer's choice, either pay the $9,212 or extend the storm drain.
Thank you. Commission, questions?
Should we give the applicant a chance to respond to any of those comments?
If you'd wish to, Mr. Sanborn, feel free to come up and respond.
Yeah, I do have a question on item 82. I don't think this property receives any benefit from line 14, so therefore I don't think it can be assessed for it. This property is currently served by the main storm drain coming down from the dam. And line 14 is designed, basically, look at the master plan, to accept waters from Crescent and the streets further north, not off of this property.
Yeah, perhaps I'm not getting the point across. But the way the master plan storm drain system works is that the properties within certain areas pay a certain drainage fee, which goes into the pot for that entire area. And so this land would pay the $9,212 times the number of acres that it has. What the condition is asking is that in lieu of that, there is a benefit, not necessarily specifically to this property, but there is a benefit to the city as a whole in possibly getting that line in sooner than it would otherwise be put in. And therefore, it would be acceptable to engineering staff that in lieu of that fee, that storm drain be extended, and that's all it is.
I don't know whether you can do that or not, to tell you the truth, because Mr. Seltzer might want to address that.
Can I address the commission?
Please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Paul Seltzer, and I represent the applicant. As I'm sure Mr. Schoenberger can tell you, or city attorney can tell you, that we are responsible to mitigate effects. The mitigation has got to be reasonably related to the effects we cause. Now, if we're not causing any storm drain problems that aren't already mitigated, we should pay. If we are not, the Nolan and Dolan cases both say you can't do that. We are logically charged with whatever we cause. If we're not causing anything, and whether this benefits the whole city, then the whole city should pay, not us. We've already paid it, so I would suggest that you may want to reconsider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. So, Mr. Brankian, you're saying that they're subject to this fee no matter what, and they could either construct the sewer, the drainage improvements, or they could pay the fee. You think they're subject to the fee no matter what, and they're contending that they're not subject to the fee?
Apparently they are contending that. The way the ordinance reads is anybody that's developing land that hasn't paid the fee that's in the area is subject to the fee. So I'm not aware of the fact that they are contesting that.
So do we need an opinion from our city attorney to see if they're subject to the fee?
You could ask us to have the city attorney look at it before it goes to council, or you could continue the item and let the city attorney meet with Mr. Seltzer and the city engineer and figure this one out and report back. It's really your pleasure. I think, you know, the way the ordinance is written and the way the fee has been imposed, it's, you know, either you pay the fee or you install improvements, and what Dave was trying to do was give them an option of doing some work that's in the area. Obviously, they don't like that, and in addition, they have questions about the fee.
What we can do, what we might do is go ahead and leave the condition in, subject to a further discussion between the applicant and the city attorney, and that item can be taken up at the council level.
We can
Maybe the
report
best
that in
way.
our report, and
Put it in the report and let them deal with it there. With that, unless there's further discussion, I'll take a crack at a motion.
All right, go ahead.
I would move approval of item TTM 29886, subject to the conditions proposed by staff, except that in condition number 9, we insert the words on the second to the last line between elevations below, that we insert the words at or below, subject to the comments that we heard from staff as to what they're looking for there. I think the applicant understands that. Condition number 18 be modified so that there is a period in the last line of condition 18 after the word line, so that it reads, the applicant shall construct a decorative masonry wall along the entire north property line, period. Deleting the words prior to recording the final map. As to condition 19, that we delete the first sentence of that condition and insert in its place that a preliminary grading plan be reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission. The rest of that, of the wording of that condition would remain. I'm not proposing a change to number 26. That would remain. Number 48 would remain. Number 57, that we defer that to a covenant. Number 61, that the street width be changed from 47 feet to 37 feet. On 62, that it be changed to allow an option to the developer to construct a gutter configuration to the satisfaction of the engineering department. Condition 63, that the requirement of a 5-foot sidewalk, so we would delete condition 63. That condition 65 be amended so that it refers to condition number 83. I think that condition 77 was answered to the satisfaction of the applicant, so I don't think there's any change needed there. Number 82, that would be left, subject to further discussion with the city attorney, and that matter would be brought to the attention of the council when it reviews the matter to make a final decision as to condition 82, depending on the legality of that particular condition.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Schoenberger, second by Ms. Morantz. Any other further discussion?
Yeah, a question, item 61. We proposing reducing the right-of-way to 37 feet. What about the additional comment to accommodate the 5-foot wide sidewalks? Should that be stricken?
That language would be stricken.
Okay.
One other question, just before we vote. Doug, you mentioned that you had a response from the school district regarding school fees and a response from somebody regarding the Bighorn exclusion fence. And do we need to address either of those items in the action we're taking today, or are they adequately addressed elsewhere?
The school district letter is a update on school capacity and enrollment, and they indicated that the developer fee needs to be paid.
That's a matter, though, between the school district and the applicant, not us, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay.
There is a concern about K through 5 and capacities. I've talked to the district, and they talk about capacity problems in Palm Springs, and yet when I talk to them about where's the new elementary school going to be, the last verbal conversation I had, they indicated they'd like us to take all the new school sites off the general plan, that they're not going to build anymore in Palm Springs. So I think it's a matter of adjustments, at least in that discussion. And just to put that in context, I was talking to the district about new schools in the northern portion of town, in areas undeveloped where we know we're going to have a lot of residential development, and they indicated they don't think they're going to build any more new schools in Palm Springs. So I think they need to do some adjustments as to attendance boundaries to make that probably work, is their intent. Secondly, with Department Fish and Game, Alex indicated we did modify our recommended condition of approval.
And I see that as covered in condition 12.
And I'd just like to make a comment. We have not experienced sheep jumping into yards in Palm Springs. Very few sightings of sheep down at the urban edge. They get close, but they don't seem to come into the yards. They don't seem to meander out on golf courses like they do in Rancho Mirage. And if we find after they build a 6-foot fence, the sheep are jumping over, we'll go to 8. And in reality, a sheep can go over probably an 8-foot fence just as easy as a 6. And we've talked to Bighorn Institute, if a sheep really wants to, they probably jump higher than that. That's their defense mechanism, and at this point, 8 feet seems to be what everybody's agreed upon if it's an area where sheep are actively coming in. We haven't experienced that, and we think through CC&Rs we can increase the height if there's a problem.
Mr. Chairman, that'd be the motion then.
We have a motion on the floor. A roll call vote, please, Michelle.
Ms.
Is there a
Conrad?
second?
Yes, there will.
Aye.
Ms. Morantz?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews? Mr. Grinch?
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberger?
Aye.
Mr. Caffrey?
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, I just ran in from another meeting. If we could have a little break, it would be appropriate.
Absolutely. We'll take how much time do you need, Doug?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. ninth meeting of the Planning Commission is back in session. And I have a conflict on the next item. I own property within 500 feet, so I will pass the reins to Mr. Matthews.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I also have a conflict on that matter.
Okay, that leaves the four of us. Case number 5.0881, PD 269, application by Palm Canyon LLC. Who's giving the staff report?
Mr. Chairman, I will give you a overview, and then Jing, you will give you an overview of the project, and then I'll follow up with a few items. This is a project that's part of an overall specific plan. The overall specific plan was first adopted in 1991. It was amended in 1994 as a result of litigation with the Sierra Club and trying to revise the project to make neighboring residents more comfortable, as well as the Sierra Club's environmental concerns. With regards to the project before you, we're recommending that we go forward with the project. We think that with a minor adjustment to the land use portion of the specific plan, the project's consistent with the intent of the specific plan. Insofar as residential development, the specific plan change that's contemplated is basically taking the Gulf that would have fingered its way through this property and move it onto the Canyon South Golf Course leasehold interest property and keep it all on that one site, and at the same time take a finger of potential development off of the specific plan, off of the Canyon Development leasehold interest, and we'll point that out on the exhibits, and make that all golf course. What we've tried to do very carefully is work with the applicant to prepare a project that's consistent with the specific plan with that amendment, a project that's consistent with the terms and conditions of the stipulated judgment that was entered into when the lawsuit was resolved. We feel that the project is consistent. You're going to hear a lot of testimony today about consistency and inconsistency, whether people are successors or not successors in interest. We think that the role of the commission is really to look at the project, not try to get into legal determinations as to how one might interpret a legal agreement if parties choose to disagree as we go down this path. We think that when we show you the project and how it fits and the issues, that you'll get a good feel for it. With regards to the project, it's fairly straightforward. It's a single-family subdivision. It's a private gated community. And with that, I'd like Jing Yu to give you a quick overview of the staff report and some of the plans, and then what I'll do is I'll talk a little bit about some of the environmental issues, and then at the close of the public hearing, I'll probably have to add some additional responses to comments that are raised. You have received some testimony already in writing. You have a letter from the Sierra Club that we received today. You have a letter from the Tribal Council having to do with archaeology and monitors on site, similar to the previous project. That was part of the mitigation package. And staff has received a couple of phone calls from people that live on or near Bogert Trail, and they've indicated a concern about the increase in traffic that may occur. Actually, the project as proposed today will have fewer trips. It has fewer units than the previously contemplated project. I'm not saying that there won't be new traffic on Bogert Trail, but it's really been designed and improved to carry this type of traffic. And we certainly respect and understand people want low levels of traffic in their neighborhood, but when there's large tracts of undeveloped land that's planned and zoned for development, that's going to probably occur over time. Mr. Chairman, that's a quick introduction. Jing is going to go through this as far as some of the staff report and particularly the subdivision design, and then I'll talk a little bit more about some of the design and environmental concerns that have come up.
Thanks, Doug. Just to give you a quick overview of the staff report, the application before you is for the subdivision of 50.49 acres north of Bogert Trail, east of Goldenrod Lane, west of the Palm Canyon Wash, and south of the existing Canyon South Golf Course. the project would have 89 single-family residential units and 4 lettered lots. The parcels average approximately 16,500 square feet in size, with the smallest parcel being 14,000 square feet, the largest approximately 28,000 square feet. As Doug mentioned, there's gated access off of Bogart Trail, and that is the only access into the project. Internal circulation is through a series of private streets, which would be 37 feet wide, with traffic calming incorporated. In terms of adjustments to the property development standards, the applicant is requesting adjustments in minimum lot size, in building height, reduction in front setbacks, and the allowance of detached garages. In terms of lot size, minimum lot size in an R1B zone is 15,000 square feet, but the reduction in lot size to 14,000 is actually consistent with the specific plan, which allows adjustments in lot size due to planning, market, or other conditions. The 22-foot building height is also consistent with the specific plan, which has approved building heights up to 24 feet. The reduction in setbacks and the detached garages are really urban design issues that could help the project create a better neighborhood feel. The specific plan amendment is for a revision to Figure 7 of Section E, design concept of the specific plan, number 1, to remove golf as a land use in parcels 10, 11, and 15, and to remove the finger of residential land that would stick out into the golf course. The justification for the specific plan amendment is due to the changing ownership patterns in the area. The mixing, I guess, of golf and residential was previously possible with one master developer, but as there are now different landowners, the specific plan amendment is requested in order to facilitate this development. The project itself is in a 100-year flood zone, and therefore the mitigation measures include the construction of a levee that would provide 100-year flood protection, raising of pad elevations in conformance with the city's flood ordinance, and processing a letter of map revision with the Federal Emergency Management Agency to take the site out of the 100-year flood zone. Staff did compare the proposal against the Sierra Club judgment, and really there are several findings in the judgment that relate to this project. Just really 2 main findings relate to equestrian access in Palm Canyon Wash and flood control improvements to the Palm Canyon Wash. In terms of the equestrian access, the judgment calls for a 30-foot wide hiking and equestrian path in the Palm Canyon Wash bottom. And in terms of flood control improvements to the Palm Canyon Wash, just a couple of highlights are the Sierra Club judgment called for an average bottom width for the Palm Canyon Wash to be at least 300 feet as measured from the east of the wash. And those exhibits are included in your packet. And the developer shall also not use any design or material in its levees which will prevent or hamper the successful return of such native shrubs on the levees. It should be noted that most of the judgment criteria, or actually all of it, has been incorporated into the mitigation monitoring program for the amended specific plan number 1, and this was done in 1994. And then in turn, those mitigation measures were incorporated into the conditions of approval for this project. So this project actually has substantial consistency with the Sierra Club judgment. In staff's review, an environmental assessment, it was found that there were potentially significant impacts with regards to water, to air quality, to biological resources, transportation, circulation, fire protection, and cultural resources. And it was found with mitigation measures that while the project could have a significant impact, with the mitigation measures, the project would have a less than significant impact. As Doug mentioned, we did receive some comments from adjacent property owners, again with regards to traffic concerns along Bogart Trail, and also a letter from the Palm Springs Unified School District relating to capacity in elementary schools. With that, I will take you through some of the exhibits we have up. Okay, just to orient you, you can see here this is Bogart Trail to the south, Goldenrod Lane to the west, Palm Canyon Wash to the east, and the golf course to the north. gated entry off of Bogart Trail, internal circulation particularly, and traffic calming particularly along the long streets. It's an 89-lot subdivision. Avenida Marbella here, the 50-foot wide easement for this has been approved to be abandoned by the engineering department. A portion of the site was previously subdivided into 10 lots as part of Tract 18087, but that was subsequently reverted to acreage through a lot line adjustment. You can see in the area where the project sits in relation to the rest of the development in the specific plan area. If I may just change boards here. The conceptual landscaping went before design review on Monday, October the 7th. Design review approved the conceptual landscaping, and really these are just ideas of what it could be, but certainly not finalized as yet. And these are the flood control exhibits. A photo simulation of the proposed rockline levee. And also in this exhibit here, you can see in the pink area, the area of less encroachment, and the green area, the area of additional encroachment. And in this section, which compares the Sierra Club, the diagram from the Sierra Club judgment to what is being proposed. Originally, it was a 350-foot wash, channel bottom. In this case, the applicant is proposing in section A, as you can see there in that line, it'll actually be increased to 520 feet. With that, I'll turn it back to Doug.
Well, I'll start with the flood control. One of the things in the stipulated judgment was an issue of trying to maintain a natural wash bottom in the Palm Canyon wash. There was a cross-section that was part of the stipulated judgment. That's this exact section just blown up in the area shown on the cross-section through the middle portion of the pink portion of that diagram. It was a 350-foot wide section in that same exact location, same section. This project is proposing to pull the channel flood control protection back so that you have a width of 526 feet. If you take a look at the exhibit right here, the areas in green show where there's a slight encroachment over the previous. It's a very minor encroachment. And then if you see the area in pink where you see the large bow, that is an area where they've pulled back, and I think the net result is about 1.7 acres of additional wash habitat that would be left. So the wash is a little bit wider in the majority of the area, just a hair narrower in a couple of locations just because of geometry. From the standpoint of trails, one of the conditions of approval that we've put in is that the project has to comply with the terms of the judgment. One of those deals with the alternative trail alignment while they construct this particular section of the wash. If and when we get to the point of constructing this and there's a feeling that we need to do a trail that comes out and around and gives a temporary access point while the bulldozers and the other equipment work in the channel, that can be done. I don't think it's logistically that difficult. We've just did it not too long ago in a flood control project where they put a grade stabilizer in here. We've done it when we built bridges. So we've worked well with Smoke Tree Ranch to make sure that there's equestrian access. And again, the narrowest point is roughly in the 300 to 350 range as far as the width, and it does flare out to 520 in areas. So there's the ability to actually ride on the far side of the wash, or if we have to pull a trail up and around to the west, that certainly could be accommodated. There was some question about documents, and we'll certainly clarify that. The technical report that's done for flood control talks about concrete line channel along here being acceptable. The developer's also gone back to flood control and talked about a rock line facility. And on a preliminary engineering basis, flood control has said if you meet our engineering criteria, it can be rock lined. So that is the intent, and I'm confident that they can make it rock lined. It's a matter of engineering it correctly, not a matter of whether or not it's technically feasible. With regards to some of the habitat issues, we have had a long series of discussions having to do with how this particular property, as well as the adjoining properties, kind of fit into the overall Palm Canyon area from particularly a bighorn sheep standpoint. And there's been a contention that this area through here and this area through here is an active, viable bighorn sheep corridor between the two U groups. You've got the San Jacinto Mountain U group, then you've got the Santa Rosa Mountains U group. People have argued that if there's sheep sightings over here and there's sheep sightings over here, obviously this is where they connect. On the assumption that that may occur, and there have been some very old historical sightings of sheep on Murray Canyon, you know, coming through some of the areas in here, not a lot of real firm documentation, but some old sightings from some of the people that have been around a long time. And you know, the issue that we talked to Fish and Wildlife Service and Fish and Game as the critical habitat maps were being developed, and as we've started to talk about these projects, even if the sheep were to use that, is it good sheep management to send them into an area that's extremely dangerous? Is that viable? Is that smart sheep management? Or is that just propagating the problem that we have in Rancho Mirage, where sheep come down and feed in Thunderbird, they drink out of pools, they stand next to highways, they get run over by cars? The commission has heard it, the council's heard it, golf courses kill sheep. We don't believe that's true, but there have been arguments that if sheep frequent golf courses because of the moisture, there's some parasites, and that can kill sheep or at least make them stressed more. I don't think the corridor on the golf course is consistent with what we've heard on other projects as far as concerns about golf. Got roadways, multiple roadways through here. Obviously, that's potentially dangerous. If the sheep were to use this corridor, they drop into a concrete line channel. They have to go up the concrete line channel, go over a 10-foot high wall, go through this subdivision, which is now developing, to get back over here. Or they have to go underneath the bridge and go the natural route back up into the hillside. We believe in our meetings with Fish and Game and Fish and Wildlife that there's been a fairly good understanding that that's quite dangerous. Probably not a good corridor to preserve, if it's used today, much if at all. When you take a look at how things work, and you take a look at the sheep range of habitat that goes into this area, the sheep habitat south in the Indian Canyons and south goes on for miles until you start getting into the higher elevations. So there's the ability over time for this to be the corridor through an area that has much less traffic, very little development, and really lots of undisturbed areas, with the exception of places where they've got to cross Palm Canyon Drive and the Indian Canyons. That has been a very expensive acquisition for a park by the state, the tribal council, and the county. And the initial acquisition was something in the vicinity of $17 million. We think it was also intended to be habitat and can certainly be a corridor that's better suited for sheep survival in the long run than trying to run the gauntlet through this particular property. Some of the essential habitat maps and critical habitat maps along here. The critical habitat map, as I recall, has a sawtooth line that is sawtooth. It was sawtooth because the cartographer, the GIS operator, could draw it better that way. In almost every instance where we've talked about could you define that, that line no longer has a sawtooth effect. It has a toe of slope or a wash effect. And we've had that discussion with Fish and Wildlife on other properties, and we had it when we started the early planning on this particular property. We thought in our early meetings, we heard Fish and Wildlife Service say development on this side of the wash is probably not a significant impact on the sheep, that they've always had a concern over here. And we don't dismiss that concern over here. We know it's real. We know that we have to deal with it, and the specific plan talks about it. And the developers and owners of this property know that there's some things that have to happen over here. I'm going to address that in just a moment. I'd like to stay on the east side. So from the standpoint of bighorn sheep, we feel that as we've worked through the agencies and we've had a series of meetings, we think that we've designed a project that's consistent with what we've heard. We think it's consistent with the recovery plan, and we think it's consistent with good resource management and how you develop an area that already has a lot of impact relative to whether or not there's a sheep corridor. With regards to an argument that the overall specific plan needs to address this particular property, the city does have a application in for this property. It's incomplete. We're not processing it at this point. The subdivision of that property follows this configuration. This area up in here is reserved for possibly future development. And then as you get up into this part of this area, the specific plan says we need to use our best efforts to try and acquire a large percentage of that property. It also said that we had to look at acquisitions up in here. We've already picked up 120 acres from this property owner as open space. The city now owns that in fee. There's no doubt in anybody's mind that this particular development has to deal with sheep mitigation up in here. Fish and Wildlife Service, Fish and Game, and I think you'll get testimony today from the Sierra Club, basically feels that everything underneath my hand is questionable as far as development, and that this area probably is developable, with the idea that you get a sheep corridor coming around this way, as well as you have an alluvial fan where the sheep can come out and forage. An alluvial fan property, there isn't that much left in the desert. Without a doubt, we know that that's an issue, and we know that we'll have to deal with that when that comes up. We don't think that it's directly related to this particular project. I think you'll get testimony contrary to that. With regards to Casey's June beetle, it's a species that is very difficult to find. It's very difficult to understand. We haven't found a biologist that can tell us much about it, other than occasionally it's seen in this area. The way they attract it, they typically go out in springtime when they know that it's emerged. They usually find out it's emerged from the ground because somebody in Smoke Tree Ranch finds it in their pool. They call the biologist. Everybody rushes out and try to find it. They basically set up black lights and white blankets, and they wait for the June beetle to either land or not land. And in talking to the gentleman that wrote and did some of the initial habitat assessments in the Coachella Valley, he indicates that you don't know how far that June beetle has flown to get on that blanket to be identified. You can't say it was on that property, it was near that property. They can come from a fairly long distance. The project biologist is here. I'll let him address that. It's not a rare, it's not an endangered species, it's not designated. We've recommended that because nobody knows how to mitigate it, we haven't found anybody that can tell us what the real mitigation is other than do nothing forever. The developers offered to pay a $600 per acre fee. That's the same acreage fee that the rest of the Valley Floor pays, and then those funds can be set aside for future implementation and mitigation if anybody can figure out exactly what to do. So at this point in time, we feel that the environmental impacts that were identified in the specific plan, in the amendments to the specific plan in 1994, and then this proposed project, that we're implementing all of the mitigation measures. And while the listing of the bighorn sheep has occurred, we addressed the bighorn sheep when this project was first analyzed. We've addressed it in the updates in 94. We looked at it again in the current environmental assessment. We think the environmental documentation clearly states that there's sheep in the area, clearly state that we don't believe that the sheep are active on this site. We don't think they use it. And just because they're seen in the hillsides adjacent to it doesn't necessarily mean that there's active connectivity between the two mountain ranges through this particular property. You could bring in 10 sheep experts, depending on what their personal expertise is. You will get a range of answers on that one, and I assure you, you will never get consensus as to what that is. CEQA requires us to disclose, analyze, evaluate, make you known about what the issues are. We believe that that record is clearly there, and other than hours and hours of debate, you're probably not going to hear any additional science over that particular issue. That's going to give you a clear conclusion as to who's right, who's wrong. CEQA process is not to determine that. It's to make sure that there's adequate debate and discussion, that information is considered, and the commission bases its information based upon the entire record. Mr. Chairman, that completes my report. I'll certainly try to answer any questions, and after the public hearing, based upon the testimony that we hear, staff may want a little bit of a break to go back and look at it and prepare some responses for you today. Thank you very much.
Does anyone on the commission have questions of the staff before we open the public hearing? Seeing none, this is a matter for public hearing, and those of you who wish to speak to the commission may do so at this time. What we'd ask that you do is please give your name, your address, and then either at the conclusion of your comments or before enter your name into the record on the clipboard there.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Michael Kaiser. I'm here along with the 3 other residents who will be directly impacted by this development. 3 of us reside on the east side of Goldenrod, which is where this project will back up to. And one of the people here reside on what is the north side of Bogert, just east of its intersection with Goldenrod, and owns the section of property which is cut out of this proposed development. And we have a number of concerns. The first is that we don't feel that there's been any demonstrated need for a change from golf with residential to a residential development like this. I know that the argument's going to be is we can't make enough money if we put some golf land in there, but you know, the 3 of us on Goldenrod bought our houses with the understanding that the specific plan included golf with residential. Our houses were designed to take advantage of a view with golf and residential houses along that, not to take a look at an uninterrupted line of roofs and a concrete block wall. And 50 acres you can develop 50 acres with a 9-hole executive course and estate-sized lots, or lots that are at least the same size as the minimum lots in this area, which are 1/3 of an acre and over. And 16,000 square foot average lots are substantially less than the lots in this area. The fact that it may have now been downsized from 100 units to 87 units doesn't really make us feel any better. So I think that number one, we are relying on the way the specific plan read. The property can be developed under the specific plan without this change, and I think that there's been no good reason shown that we should make that change. Secondly, we have a concern with traffic in the area. Unless you live there, you don't know the traffic. And Mr. Evans has indicated, and I think this is really kind of a gloss over, the only thing he said is that, well, we're going to have less traffic than we would with 100 units. Traffic studies have not been completed. We who live there know, not only is it, although it's a collector street, the fact is that the way this street is lined out has curves. There are blind curves on this street. There are families that live there. It is already a lot of traffic. Without taking into account what's going to happen, and we have two other proposed developments which will impact this traffic on this same map up here, without taking this into account really knowing what the impact is going to be, other than to say it's going to be less than it would be with 100 units, I think is really premature. The people who live up in Andreas and the hills have no other outlet. Verona was started from two ends with the idea that that was going to be completed, and it's never been done. We have one outlet that's a two-lane intersection each way on each street at South Palm Canyon and Bogart Trail. It's totally inadequate to handle the traffic that we have without increasing that traffic. So I think that is premature, and the commission needs to know what the impact's going to be on the traffic in that area. And of course, if the development went in, what's the problem with putting in some traffic outlet in the corner up on the top that goes back out to Murray Canyon? If you see the top corner there where that circle is. So there are ways we need to mitigate the traffic problem that we already have out there. And you find that that's a concern with a number of people. The other concern that we have is with the wildlife, and unless you live out there, you don't know what the impact has been. I think it's a little bit. It's really not, I don't think, appropriate to say, well, we don't understand the bighorn situation. We don't understand the Casey's June beetle situation, so we're going to ignore it. We're going to ask for put some money in. We're going to ignore it. We need to understand it. We need to know it, but it's more than that. We have a lot of wildlife in that area, and we've already noticed that with some of the development that's gone on, there's been a decrease in that wildlife, and I think that needs to be addressed by the commission. Finally, I just want to point out that this type of a development there's no development like this south of Canyon, of the Canyon South Golf Course. On the flip side of Bogart, we have Andreas Palms. We have the same approximate acreage with 1/2 the density. We need to keep that consistent with what we have in our area if we want to keep our property values the same. We have houses there now that are valued, the minimum house values out there are about $650,000 to $700,000. And we're going to put in our area, backed up to our houses that have a $300,000 to $400,000 value, and that's going to significantly affect the value of our houses. So I think that there has not been an adequate investigation of this by staff. It's nice to say, let's just stick it in there and use this section of property, get somebody to develop it, but I think that this is not appropriate for the area, and I just thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Kaiser.
Good afternoon. My name is Marshall Gilbert. I live on Goldenrod Lane, and my house is directly affected. I've owned many homes in Palm Springs. It's my first time in front of the Planning Commission. I'm not a NIMBY, not my backyard person. I'm certainly not a member of CAVE, Citizens Against Virtually Everything. This is my first time in my whole life When we bought this house, ironically, I spoke to Mr. Evans about it at length, and he was very, very helpful. My experience in building this house was a very pleasant one. I bought it in '97. We all know here on this commission, in this room, when you buy a house or build a house, it's location, location, location. And when I and my family buy a house that has the most pristine view in the valley, based on the fact that the only thing that can go there is a golf course and some homes, and to change the rules in the middle of the game and say, well, the biggest investment you'll ever make in your life, we've changed the rules now because the developer wants to come in. There's many things. If you're looking for Casey June beetles, come to my house. There's plenty of them there. Last thing we need to do is get rid of a golf course. I mean, Palm Springs is way behind every other city in golf courses. And even like Mr. Kaiser said, if it's a 9-hole executive, we need it. We don't need to be getting rid of golf courses here in Palm Springs. We need to at least keep the ones that are zoned for. And there's many other issues. My house has a beautiful view right now. That's why I bought it. That's why I made my lifetime investment. If this changes, my view will now be a block wall no further from me to where you're sitting right now. Now, obviously, I wouldn't have bought the house had I known that. And I don't think in America you can say, well, that was then, this is now. We bought it for that particular reason. And to change the zoning is fundamentally unfair. On top of that, we have loans on these houses. And those get, as you know now with the new regulations, they get reevaluated. And if there's going to be a block wall specifically behind my house, I think I'm the most adversely affected, then what happens if it gets significantly reduced and they call the note? We have so many issues. Goldenrod, I'm not good with directions, the side I'm on at 3030, Palm Canyon is probably currently the most dangerous intersection in the city of Palm Springs. There's a near fatal auto versus pedestrian accident there, and I can't tell you how many near misses I've had. We're going to put another 87 homes in there to have that significantly more dangerous? No. We have to put our foot down and say, we made our investments. You can't hang, well, you can, but you should not hang us out to dry. And that's exactly what this is. And I feel for the developer, and I feel that everybody wants to make some money, but I have children. And Mr. Kaiser has littler children. When you buy in an area because you believe it's safe and you believe that the concept of what you're buying is one thing, and then in 2002 for the planning department to say, well, change our mind. We're going to do it this way now. Again, it's fundamentally unfair. As far as the bighorn sheep go, there are so many. I'm not a big wildlife fan, I'll admit that. But my kids, they can go and show you every type of lizard that we have out there. We just can't ignore it. I've never heard of something like this. In all my years in the political game or in the media, I've never heard of somebody saying, well, your house is zoned this way, but we're going to build it zoned that way. I can honestly say I've never seen that happen. And it should send a chill down everybody's spine, because that can happen to anybody. Once you set that precedent, then we're all at danger. Especially if these stupid measures pass, then buildings are going to go through the roof because the city's going to need the money. Now, I don't believe in name calling, and I don't think anybody is evil at heart or trying to hurt anybody. But the bottom line, the most significant issue, and I'll repeat it and then I'll stop speaking, to go from a pristine view, expecting to see a golf course and homes, to a view of a block wall, no further from where I am to you are, I don't see how that can happen. I don't see how that can happen in America, in Palm Springs. I don't see how that can happen anywhere. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert.
Chairman and Commission, my name is Marvin Roos with Monero Smith and Associates, project planners and engineers for this project. Thank you for your time today. Have a few comments here and there, obviously trying to work with the neighbors as best we can. The developer or property owner of this, the Palm Canyon LLC, came into the area with the intent originally of working with the tribe, trying to put together the fee pieces as well as working on the Indian lease situation at the Canyon Hotel, and trying to kind of review the Canyon Park Resort and Spa project, how that might work, how golf might work, how homes might work, et cetera. Variety of contacts. We've done bunches and bunches of golf course plans and the rest. Ultimately, the tribe, the ACDA, the Agua Caliente Development Authority, said we want to keep all the golf on the lease land. We're not interested in doing any kind of commingling of golf and homes. We need to, and we're going to work separately. Obviously, eventually went with another developer for the Canyon Hotel, the redoing of the golf course, et cetera. And as a result, we now have the 3 fee parcels, which one of which was approved a couple of months ago, which was actually a re-subdivision of the old Stitch subdivision at Acanto and South Palm Canyon, and the Needleman property, which is 30 of the acres involved here, as well as some of the original Canyon project in the Wash, which leads to the total property involved. The original premise of the Canyon specific plan was that, in fact, there would be a master developer for the entire project. As we've seen in the additions in 94, you know, various properties were not held and maintained. Those have been subdivided and changed in accordance to the specific plan, and that's why we're here today. We're proposing an upscale subdivision, gated community. Anticipated sales prices, these are $700,000 and up in terms of houses. We're anticipating a lot of interest in the upscale market in Palm Springs with a variety of things that have been going on, and we're not anticipating any problem with those particular sales prices. We too believe we are meeting the spirit of the settlement agreement. In fact, probably most of the absolute letter of that agreement as well, other than the fact that we don't control a great deal of the property and a lot of the elements that were involved in that original agreement. So, you know, we're here today asking for a relatively minor change, what we think is a minor change to the specific plan that showed some golf on this property and some houses. There were well over 100 homes in this particular development area that included homes both on this property and on the golf course. There was never a specific, precise development plan for the golf course and homes that was put together by Mr. Solomon. There were some general kind of bubble diagrams, but nothing specific. With the advent of the ACDA position on not extending the golf into the fee, we really have no choice. It's certainly a 9-hole executive course is not a viable option. It's not, and it's not consistent with the specific plan either. So under the circumstances, we hope we bring to you a good residential project, bring high quality homes into the area. We think that you know, we're again cooperative with the city, with the wildlife agencies. We've had many meetings with Fish and Game, Fish and Wildlife, and the Sierra Club. In fact, we met with them last week, and at that time felt that the primary concerns of the Sierra Club were in the areas to the west side of South Palm Canyon, not to the Monte Sereno track, as we're calling this, and not necessarily surprised by the letter, but understand, I believe, what they're trying to focus on, and hopefully we'll be able to work through that today. Without getting too carried away. We did have a couple of areas of comment and concern. In general, there's some, in the findings, there's some comments about the wash being 520 feet wide. I want to just point out that's a wide spot. The average is over 300, which was a settlement agreement, so we are meeting that. We just wanted to point out that some of the language might tend to indicate that there's that the entirety of the wash is over 500 feet, and that's just not the case. The wash necks down right now to about 200 feet where the golf course corners right at the kind of where the mountain and the golf course kind of come together. We are working with the engineers for the ACDA, who are redoing that golf course plan to widen that out to the 285 foot minimum as set forth in the settlement agreement, and we'll coordinate with that. But as you look at, the issue of biology and wildlife, basically we've got a piece of property that's surrounded on 3 sides, almost 4 sides by the urban pattern of the South Canyon area, we're basically drawing a line between those developed areas, one at the Bogert Trail Bridge and the other at the golf course. We actually pulled back further than the settlement agreement, primarily to avoid being in excess of 0.5 acres of Corps of Engineer jurisdiction, so we can go to a nationwide permit rather than an individual permit. And that doesn't sound like maybe a big deal, but it's a lot less red tape with the Corps. So we pulled that back. That's what changed the lot numbers. We've actually, in the redesign of this, in less area, we lost basically 1 lot. We're down to 89 lots now in terms of the plan that's before you today. A couple of conditions and thoughts as we go through the staff report. Get to my page here. First one. I lost all my point notes here. On grading number 23, and I think it's, the overall is fine, but there's some specifics here on pad heights being in excess of the adjacent highest existing grade. I think once we go through the what's called the LOMAR, the letter of map revision, that will set specifics on that, and we don't anticipate them being any higher than the existing residences, whereas if we go there now, that might be the case under this language. So on 23, we want to make sure that includes the ability to work with FEMA on keeping those grades as low as possible. On drainage number 34, we're still in a position of not agreeing with necessarily establishing at this time a requirement for a fair share contribution to the bridge structure at South Palm Canyon Drive, which is not adopted, not approved, and certainly not, there's not specific understanding of that funding mechanism. We're working, in fact, with the redevelopment agency on a program for the overall area that includes all of the tracks and all of the development in this area, as that would be a universal benefit to not have a flooding condition at Bogert Trail, which is what that's intended to do. On drainage 37, there's language about a hardline levee. That was an initial basic design. We've now talked to flood control. We just like language that would allow the rock-lined, ungrouted levee to be built and designed instead, so that can be revegetated per the settlement agreement. While we're not against the spirit of the settlement agreement, at the same time, we're not sure that Palm Canyon LLC per se is a party to that agreement at this point. Mr. Solomon was, the Canyon Park Resort and Spa, but, and again, we're trying to comply with the pieces as they apply to this, but I think you're going to hear that, that all of this land should be contributing to buying land on the other side of the West Palm Canyon Drive, which we think is a larger issue beyond this project. Any other comments and concerns here? There was just a general comment in the staff report that there was a 30-foot wide levee access road. I'm not sure what that is. We didn't see that. I believe that's the 30-foot trail in the levee or in the wash itself. We're proposing at this point a 15-foot flood control road on the edge of that levee. 30 foot's certainly unnecessary. And also there were comments that there was 1.7 acres of jurisdictional waters, and that's a state jurisdiction, but the federal jurisdiction is actually 0.4 acres. And we'd, again, point out that we've been reducing that as we can. Also here today, we have the biologist who studied this as well as the overall canyon project, the hydrologist who's been working in the South Palm Canyon area since 1984 and has been working on the canyon project in that entire time as well. And our consultant on the jurisdictional issues with the Corps, and also Jim Schlecht, who represents the property owner, and Mr. Bill Barron, who is the representative of Palm Canyon LLC, and would like an opportunity perhaps at the end for Bill or the others to either answer questions or present a minor amount of rebuttal at that point. Again, we don't have a lot of concerns about the conditions. We're in consort with the staff who've been working hard on this, been trying to adjust this accordingly, and seek your approval today. And if there's any questions you have, I'd try to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Roos. Is there anyone else who cares to speak on this matter?
Commissioners, my name is Joan Taylor. I represent Sierra Club. I'll go ahead and sign in now. Sierra Club has submitted written comments to the city. I'd just like to emphasize some points. Regarding the stipulated judgment and other concerns, Sierra Club did meet with the city, the ACDA, and Palm Canyon LLC last week. Clearly, there were still issues outstanding. With regard to the judgment, that would include obligation of Canyon successors, such as Palm Canyon LLC, regarding land acquisition and preservation, and perhaps other obligations, such as liquidated damages. The requirement to revegetate the Palm Canyon levee also seems to be an outstanding question. Looks like that's moving closer to resolution. Our letter states we need to review the documents before we give a final blessing on the flood control being consistent with what was in the judgment. I want to make a note that it's been said in the documents and today that that somehow the amendment to SP1 was somehow part of the settlement. It was not. The stipulated judgment settled the lawsuit in 1993. And the amendment to Specific Plan 1 arose separately. It rose from a desire on the part of the developer to move the hotel to the west side of Palm Canyon Drive. Now it's being proposed to be moved back. The settlement did not cause the amendment to come about. One of Sierra Club's overriding concerns is that Specific Plan 1, which we're dealing with here, is being piecemealed. When Specific Plan 1 was approved, it was one comprehensive project. Now the city appears to be analyzing it as separate projects as regards biological impacts. CEQA does not permit piecemealing of impacts. This is also 10 years later. There have been substantially changed circumstances, circumstances that could not have been foreseen at the time, especially as regards the status of rare and endangered species. Casey's June beetle is a case in point. It wasn't even on the radar screen environmentally a decade ago. Little, if anything, was known at the time about its extremely limited range. But in recent years, there's been a body of evidence developed that shows that this species meets all criteria for listing under the Endangered Species Act. Impacts to Casey's June beetle mandate preparation of an EIR. It's been said today that the rest of the valley pays a $600 fee. Well, they don't do that for Casey's June beetle. They may do it for fringe-toed lizard. The tribe may have done it for general impacts to species. But Casey's June beetle only have only been found in the last decade, or more recently, in the Palm Canyon area. Therefore, the rest of the valley does not pay $600 to mitigate impacts to Casey's June beetle. And unless there is some sort of plan to spend this money on a preserve that will actually do something for Casey's June beetle, the mere payment of a fee does not mitigate impacts. Since the early 90s, the status of Peninsular Bighorn has changed, as has information on its requirement for survival and recovery. It is now known that the project lies in a Bighorn corridor connection between the Santa Rosa and San Jacinto Mountains. Connecting these U groups has been pointed out as a priority in the 2000 Recovery Plan for Peninsular Bighorn sheep. Designated critical habitat now lies on or immediately adjacent to the east end of the project, and critical habitat for the species covers a large part of the west end of the specific plan area. This western area is going to be developed by the same applicant as part of the same overall development scheme, Specific Plan 1. I guess the main point is that Specific Plan 1 is a common plan and scheme. It has common obligations of all phases of this specific plan to fund flood control, traffic, etc. impacts. And we believe it has common obligations to deal with impacts to rare and endangered species caused by the entire development. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor.
May I make a quick clarification?
Real quick. You can't. Sorry, Mr. Gilbert, you have to wait till maybe someone will call you up at the close of the public hearing, but each speaker gets one shot. Is there anyone else who cares to come forward? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I will invite Mr. Gilbert back to the microphone to... You just want to see me get out? No, I just want to give you a fair hearing.
Thanks. No, I was just teasing. Doug brought over to me a little map saying that either way, I wouldn't have a golf course view. And I did not mean to imply that. If I did, I apologize. That was not my intent. However, and I'll make this really quick. The bottom line is, had I known there was just going to be a body of houses there, I wouldn't have built the house. Period, paragraph, end of statement. I don't think anybody would have. A O'Donnell-type golf course with some homes is palatable. 87, 97, 107, whatever they started with, is not palatable. Nobody addressed the very dangerous traffic that we have there that will only get worse with more homes. And we all know the situation with the city right now. I beg you each to go there and make that right turn off of Goldenrod or the left turn. It will change your life. And there's children, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to my 16-year-old. And again, I just want to emphasize, I can't think of building a house and then 5 years later somebody saying the property adjacent to you, we're changing what it was. It just isn't right. Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Are there any questions of the other commissioners to the staff, or? I've got some, but.
I have some.
Trace.
Doug, could you address the piecemeal question about these 3 different tracks and the city's approach to it? And specifically, could you tell us what has and has not been approved prior to now?
Yes, if I could approach the boards. The development proposal, the specific plan covered essentially all of the area in through here. This is a project that was approved fairly recently, subdivision map, The commission and council found that it was consistent with the specific plan. We did some minor amendments to the specific plan relative to the street cross-section along here. Again, originally this was intended to be part of the Canyon Development larger project. It was intended to be residential, and it could have been cluster residential. Attached product, things of that nature. It was really probably more of a condominium feel than a single-family residential feel on individual lots, was the original intent. These areas were not part of the Canyon Development Project, the actual Planned Development District. This project has been approved and reapproved for a subdivision of single-family homes. It's consistent with the specific plan, and they're getting ready to actually construct that subdivision. These are Indian-owned lands, and there's been a single-family house built here by the Indian owner of that Indian land. It's not quite complete. With regards to taking a look at this property, originally this property was to have a link of golf coming in along this side, going back on that side, with some homes projecting up into this area. Because of the ownership dynamics that have occurred, the Agua Caliente Development Authority owns all of the golf course and the leasehold interest underneath the homes on Bogert Trail and Goldenrod and the old hotel site. They anticipate and are in the process of looking at the planning documents to move the hotel to this location where it was originally. And we know that that's an upcoming proposal from them. They have not submitted their plans to us. We've had several meetings to discuss it. With regards to the piecemealing effect, I think what the fundamental concern seems to be, and is what happens up here, and whether or not if you linked all of these properties together, you could take money or leverage from all of that to set more of this aside. From the city's standpoint, the stipulated judgment is probably binding upon the city and the Sierra Club. May or may not be binding upon successors in interest, and I'm not going to try to debate that. That's for the lawyers to discuss later on. We don't think we're going to see any changes as to what the specific plan set up in this area, and I think the property owner of this property, as well as the people that have option on it, which is Palm Canyon LLC, I think they know that they're probably not going to get full development up here, and at some point in time we'll have to address the entitlement process there. They're willing, because they own Palm Canyon LLC as the developer here, and here. They recognize that eventually that has to be dealt with, and we're not trying to hide that from anybody. It's been very clear from first meeting that this is going to be a tough piece of property to develop, and that there's going to be controversy, and we're going to have to work very hard as to how that works. Because of the ownership fragmentation, it's changed. Again, this area was intended to have some attached product, and it was intended to have a higher density with smaller lots. And if anything, this particular proposal has fewer homes, larger lots, and actual lots as opposed to condominium type ownership than what was previously approved. And the difference is all the golf will stay up here, and there won't be any homes up into the floodplain. I think that answered most of your question.
Can you also tell me what the average lot sizes are here and here?
I'd have to do another double check. I think most of these lot sizes are probably in the half-acre range. These are ranging in size from about a third up to probably 3/4 of an acre. It's in the staff report, and we can give you those ranges. So it's comparable. It's not exactly the same. These lot sizes range in size also, but I think overall it would be comparable. These lot sizes this was built in the county. I've never checked the lot sizes of that. Belamonte was built in the county. It's larger lot sizes because that's what the developer wanted to offer. So I think if you take a look at this, you're comparable in lot sizes, maybe not matching each one individually, but certainly not out of the ballpark relative to the neighborhood, and certainly probably, well, without a doubt, larger lot sizes than we would have had they subdivided it under the approved specific plan.
Any other questions from the commission? I have a couple. Can you address or someone discuss the traffic concern that's been raised, and if there is going to be a traffic study, at what point, and the impact of that?
If I could maybe talk about the planning side of traffic, and then Dave Barakian is here to talk about the technical side of it. You know, clearly it was contemplated that there would be this number or more homes in this area using Bogert Trail. In 1991, there was a traffic study done. It took a look at roadway capacities, things of that nature. So there was a traffic study done. There's less units proposed today than before. So the question of whether or not there was a traffic study, there clearly was one. Dave Barakian in his recommendations is asking that there be a clarification analysis because of some of the location of driveways for the hotel are going to change as you get past Bogert Trail onto South Palm Canyon Drive. So he's indicated, so when we actually get down to assessing the fine dollar amount for traffic mitigation, that we do a refined traffic study to look at proportionate shares, not a full new traffic study that would say a whole lot different for this particular location and this site. There was a concern expressed that maybe we could run a roadway north to Murray Canyon. We've taken a look at that. It used to be on our general plan. We took it off our general plan because it's either going to be in the wash or it's going to be on the golf course. There's not enough property to do it, and if you put it in the golf course, it's going to have to either be a bridge to get over there, or it's going to have to be in the floodplain and floodway, and we don't approve roadways that are going to get flooded out anymore in the city of Palm Springs. We've got enough to deal with, and building the bridges later on is very difficult. That was thoroughly debated in 1991. It was debated in 1993 as to whether or not we'd have a Murray Canyon connection. While it would provide some relief, I don't think it's land ownership or environmentally really a feasible circulation alternative. And it's certainly not needed to accommodate the flow of traffic from a roadway capacity standpoint. It would be a nice luxury, but I'm not sure the tribe would buy it. The Development Authority would buy it, and I think we'd have another paragraph added to the Sierra Club letter if we tried to run it along the wash.
One of the previous speakers had said something about a change. It's really not a change in zone that's going on here. Do you want to comment on that?
Well, what you're actually looking at is the amendment to the specific plan, which is in the diagrams, and it's a relatively minor amendment relative to moving the golf all onto the leasehold interest or the Canyon South property and having this all developed as homes. The Planned Development District, when it's ultimately approved by council, is approved by an ordinance, so it is an ordinance of the city of Palm Springs. But we're not coming in and doing anything that's inconsistent with the specific plan relative to the types of land uses, the size of homes, and generally the location of homes. Mr. Chairman, if I could, I would like to talk about the issue of what was anticipated next to the homes on Goldenrod.
Sure.
Okay. Passing out is basically an exhibit out of the Planned Development District application. So that was the actual project that was approved in 1994, and the way that works in the diagram, and I'd like to show it here. One of the speakers today lives in this particular home in that area, and if you take a look at that diagram, everything shown in yellow was to be homes, and there were to be homes behind all the houses on Bogart Trail. The lake would go away, that we're all familiar with losing golf balls in, and the homes would come around, wrap around all the way in through here. In this entire area would have been all homes. Some of them may have been attached homes where you wouldn't have yards between the units. They probably would have been clustered to some degree, probably smaller lots. So I think the anticipation of what would be behind that property, there would have been a property line wall. There would have been homes and roof lines. The nearest golf hole would have been way off over in this area because the golf wrapped around in through here. It did not come into this area at all. And I know that that is confusing. It was very concerning on my part when people started building homes again along Bogart Trail, that a lot of them might expect to have a golf course back there, and under that approved plan, they would have had homes behind them. And the tribal council, through the development authority's acquisition, basically kept and preserved the golf up to this point, but there was never intended to be golf over here. And that's the document right out of the approved plan development district to implement the specific plan. And what I did was I put a little X and a circle around the home that I just pointed out.
You wanna?
Doug, has there been any thought, or maybe this is be something for the engineer, for the city engineer, any traffic calming measures thought about for that road? Because it is, I think it can take the traffic, it's just how fast they drive on it. And that's probably one of the major issues, because it is a speed trap, it really is. And possibly that might mitigate a lot of the problems if there were some type of traffic calming measures. Has that been discussed or thought
On
about?
Bogart Trail?
Yep.
Not specifically as far as condition of approval of this development, nor of the original specific plan. However, now that we are in traffic calming mode, the condition 51, which calls for a focused traffic study, the basic reason behind that, as Doug stated, was because the original traffic study had mitigation measures that no longer apply, involve streets that aren't going to be there anymore and that sort of thing. What we were getting at was to focus the traffic study on what's going to be built now, as far as the specific plan, end up with a different, or at least a revised set of recommendations, which we asked, Bogart Trail be part of, and that certainly will be an issue looked at. That was the idea behind that, was to have mitigation measures that are up to date with the development plan, and traffic calming are certainly part of that. You may notice that within the tract itself, there are conditions requiring traffic calming for the long residential streets,
Yeah.
which weren't conditioned on the original specific plan either.
But it's in there, yeah.
Any other questions from the commission, or motions, or?
I don't want to put Mr. Roos on the spot, but the piecemeal application process does bother me, and I wonder if you'd be willing to address when you'll be ready to come back with the Alturas part of this, and if you could address some of the Sierra Club's concerns, because it seems to me that's the most crucial piece of all of this, and I understand it's not what we're looking at, but it seems like
It's important.
It's the bigger issue.
Well, the specific plan amendment that would be required to have the Altura subdivision move ahead, as well as the Canyon Hotel project move ahead, is in its preliminary stages right now. The tribe hasn't made or the ACDA, I'm sorry, has not made a decision yet specifically on hotel issues, but it's pretty much assured that the hotel will move back to the old site, that the levee that's now there at Murray Canyon will move somewhat south to match up with the drainage coming off of Canyon Heights, which is the condominium project to the west. And all of that will come back together, and my suspicion is that you should be hearing that in the spring. Nothing can happen, nothing is proposed to happen on the Alturas piece until that happens. And all of that's being reviewed right now. We're working with Terra Nova on that. Terra Nova's been hired by ACDA. Terra Nova's basically stepped into the Dennehy position, or the Canyon Vista, I guess it was called, and is, operating the larger amendment, which would move the hotel from the Alturas piece back down. Right now, that's what the specific plan calls for, is the hotel and major flood control elements to that site. So that is moving ahead. We don't see this as piecemeal. When it was all one development, you had the opportunity to do things you just can't do now. The property owners, in '94, several property owners opted out of the specific plan at that time and have moved ahead. We don't see this as being significantly different in an approach than you would have had if you had an overall developer, other than the fact that you'd have it all at once, all at one time. And with what's happened, and we waited actually on all of these in an attempt to try to work with Canyon Vista, and unfortunately, when that went bankrupt, we had to look at an alternative that would in fact allow us to move ahead. And that's why, again, and actually part of this development, along the wash, was previously subdivided also as part of the was it 18087 tract, which was part of Point Andreas. That subdivision along Bogart Trail subdivided a portion of this that's along the wash, a triangle that's along the wash, and we will be vacating that. So there's a lot of history here. It's just impossible it was impossible to figure out that Canyon Vista was going to go bankrupt. Otherwise, we would have been here, hopefully, we should have been here a year ago with the entire project, with the hotel, with everything. Piecemeal-wise, there's really nothing that would be different, we don't think, in the outcome of this than would be if in fact you had all of the pieces in front of you at the same time. Actually, if you look at the specific plan and you look at that plan that was proposed, what's being proposed is a whole lot better in this area specifically, and that's what we're concerned about today, than was proposed before. And we think it's better overall than what was proposed before, although I wasn't intimately involved with the project at that time. We think that we've made those improvements to the degree we can. We just unfortunately don't have the golf and everything else to work with. Did I answer your question, Trace?
Any other questions?
I had one question. Marvin, you mentioned a development, Canyon Heights. Help me out with that.
Canyon Heights is...
Is that near where we're...
That's the condominium project across from the Canyon Hotel, the old Canyon Hotel site. It's shown on the map. That's Canyon Heights, and there's a little bit of vacant wrapping around Canyon Heights. And it's just kind of a hallmark. It's the major development on the west side of South Palm Canyon.
Okay.
Any other questions? I have one final question, Marvin, and maybe as long as you brought a biologist, I guess I'd like to hear about the Casey June beetle. The question I have is one, and the thing we had is, I guess it is listed as a special animal, but is it endangered, rare, or threatened? And anything else you want to shed about the beetle that might be, comment on that might be helpful in our deliberation?
My name is Brock Ortega. I'm with Dudek and Associates. The Casey's June beetle actually it's a federally sensitive species, but it's not listed as threatened or endangered. And if you refer to the AMEC letter within the Sierra Club letter. Let's see. Page, might be page 16, I think, of the whole thing. Within that letter, it even says, the species is not recognized as threatened or endangered by the state or federal governments and does not appear on the insect list within the special animals publication of the California Department of Fish and Game, CDFG 2001. So even within the Sierra Club's letter, they indicate that it's not considered a special animal by CDFG. We subcontracted out the Casey's June beetle work to Michael Bramman Associates. That was conducted, that work was conducted in April and May of 2001. They had probably 4 or 5 traps set up in and in the close proximity to the project area, and they didn't catch any Casey's June beetle. They did have 2 observations of the beetle, though, on the project site, or adjacent to the project site.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, motions, actions? Discussion?
Doug? As far as a motion today, according to the motions agenda, we could order a filing of mitigated negative declaration. And that would just maybe get the ball rolling, but yet we've still got a long ways to go.
Well, if the commission's pleasure is to move forward with the project, you would recommend that the city council order the filing of a negative declaration. In doing so, you would ask staff to prepare a detailed written response to the comments that were raised today as part of our council report, and we will do that regardless of whether or not that's in your motion. We believe that you could move forward with the specific plan amendment, which is the first item, and also the tentative subdivision map and the plan development district. You have resolutions in your packet for all 3 of those. If the commission would like to have more information before you act upon the project, you could continue the item. I don't think there's any benefit in taking partial action today.
If the item is continued because the public hearing was closed, could the public hearing, if there was any other comments, could that still be a public hearing item?
Well, if you choose to reopen the public hearing and then continue it, you could. I think you'd have to specifically, tell us what information you specifically feel you need at your next meeting. Obviously, the commission could just feel it needs to deliberate and review the information that you've seen so far and that you have today before you take action. It's really your pleasure, but you could continue it. If you want staff to introduce more information to you, you probably need to reopen the hearing and continue it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, recommend filing of a mitigated negative declaration.
Go ahead.
Okay. And approval to City Council of specific Plan Number 1 amendment, or that was A, specific Plan Number 1 amendment, and B, tentative track map 30046 and case number 5.0881, Plan Development District 269, allowing for an 89-lot residential subdivision in Plan Development District 269, PD 269, for the 50.49 acre parcel located on north of Bogart Trail, east of Goldenrod Lane, and west of the Palm Canyon Wash, subject to the conditions in the resolution.
Is there a second to that? I'll second it for hearing none. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I might have one question for the commission. You didn't ask for a specific response on one of the applicant's concerns regarding the FEMA maps and the like, but I believe that we will work the city engineer really needs to answer, but we will work with the FEMA process to establish the pad heights.
Yeah, there's three issues they raised. The fair share of the bridge, which you probably can work out at staff level, and the rock line channel certainly moves towards resolving the issues with the Sierra Club, and you don't have any objection with those,
Okay.
and neither do I. Any other comments or thoughts? Or
I would wonder if Mr. Grinch would amend his motion to include the revised traffic study and the other thing that wasn't addressed is the $600 fee for, what's it gonna be spent on? Do you have maybe the applicant could come up with a more specific plan or staff?
Let me ask if condition 50 that the engineer pointed out, which was a specific traffic study,
Yes.
accomplishes what you're after?
It is there.
Okay. And then the $600 fee, I don't know if you want to address that.
Well, what we would do is put that into the city's open space fund, and we would wait and see if somebody can figure out how to mitigate or conserve property for Casey's June beetle, and participate at that level. But I don't, other than just saying, let's study it for the next 4 or 5 years and try to figure out where it is, I'm not sure you can develop a mitigation program. Where it seems to be is on a regular and routine basis in larger numbers appears to be not here. Appears to be more northerly and easterly. Not too far away, but north and east of this property.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? My thoughts, I'm sorry. Marvin wants to be recognized. I really don't want to.
Just wanted to clarify that the $600 an acre has been applied to 2 other subdivisions in the South Palm Canyon area. This isn't new. We're just trying to be consistent with the program.
All right, thank you.
I just want to comment before we take the roll call vote that the issues raised in that I saw raised in the public testimony, I think have been addressed either by the staff or in the conditions in the staff report. And the only reason, my sense is it makes sense for us now to move this on to the city council. There's some legal issues that still may be being worked out, and it sounds like there's been some movement on both parts in recent weeks, and I don't know whether we can add value to the process any more than we have by conducting the public hearing and addressing the planning issues. And that's why I seconded the motion. With that, unless there's something further, Michelle, could you take a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Conrad?
Yay.
Ms. Morantz?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mr. Grinch?
Aye.
I'd like to turn the meeting back to Mr. Caffrey.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Well, we have one final public hearing item. Looks as though it's going to be continued. I'll just go ahead and read it in. Case number 5.0916, application by Matthew Dragisevich, Charitable Remainder Trust, for a general plan amendment and change of zone to redesignate 5.11 acres of land located at 4155 Matthew Drive from M15 medium density residential to GC general commercial and C conservation, and to rezone from R2 multiple residential and R1AH single family residential to CM commercial manufacturing, 020 open land, section 30, continued from the meeting of September 11th, 2002.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant has asked for a continuance to November 13th. We've made good progress in evaluating the property. They'd like to be able to put a real program together for you. This is a public hearing item. You would continue the public hearing to that date.
And we need a motion to do so?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Schoenberger and a second by Ms. Morantz. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Krantz? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, do we have to do a roll call on this? Okay. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, I see Commission Work Program.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to let you know I'm supposed to be at a meeting with the City Council 45 minutes ago, so I'm going to have to go very fast on these items. Council Cabinet meeting tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. The chairman can't make it, the vice chairman can't make it. We need a volunteer.
I think Mr. Schoenberger was volunteering for
Well,
that.
I would go, I told Mr. Caffrey I'd go, but I would defer to someone else if they want to go. So, but I said I would go. Mark, if you want to go, I would defer to you.
I have no desire to go. I'm going on the commission bus tour, and that's as far as I want to be.
Then, in the absence of any other volunteer, I did say I'd go, so I will.
Thank you very much, John. We appreciate your representing us at the council cabinet. City council actions update? Oh, we had one other item. The airport subcommittee, Mark cannot make the next meeting, and we need someone to fill in there.
That's October 15th at 1:30. If another commissioner would like to participate, Commissioner Grentz is covering that for you. But we did originally have 2 members, so if somebody would like to go to another meeting, they can volunteer. Tuesday at 1:30. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Moran.
Mr. Chairman, could I just move to item 10 real quick? Joint meeting with the City Council and Tribal Council tonight. That's where I'm supposed to be. And I'm one of the key players, so I've got to get reports in the room. They're going to talk about a number of issues, including the casino, joint funding, TOT taxes, a number of things. It's a very aggressive agenda of community-wide issues. If I could go right to commission staff reports, I'd like to, I think we already introduced Larry Manez, our new principal planner. We also have with us today, right behind me, yep, she's still there, Kathy Marks. She's our new associate planner. And
Welcome, Kathy.
oh, that's right. Well, now the TV audience has seen you. Mr. Chairman, that's all that staff has today. If the commission has any items, we'll write fast.
Any quick commissioner requests?
Mr. Evans, just before you go, there were some matters that we wanted to raise at the cabinet meeting tomorrow night. Okay, I'll get them from Michelle. Thanks.
Got a memo for you, and if you have any more questions, just give me a call.
With that, meeting adjourned.
Thanks.